So here's follow-up on the Raikoke volcano. This report, this is the latest one. Well, let's refresh and make sure we've got the latest one. This is from today at 2100 p.m. Explosive activity continues. Volcanic Ash Advisory Center, Tokyo, warned about a volcanic ash plume that rose up to estimated 38,000 feet or 11,600 meters altitude or flight level 380 and is moving at 25 knots in northeast direction. Full report is as follows. And then here's previous news. So it's still going off. Oh, I was going to show it to you on NASA Worldview. Hold on, I'll pull that up. Okay, I'm back. So here's NASA Worldview from today. So you can see these clouds are gray. That's the sulfur dioxide and the ash mixed in with it. So here's the Pacific Ocean. Here's Kamchatka Peninsula. So we're looking right down here. Let's go back a couple of days when it blew up. Here's where it blew up on the 22nd. Where it blew up through the clouds and was erupting. This thing was coming up above the clouds. So that was Saturday. Here it was from yesterday, and here it is from today. So we can see, so here's the little island, and we can see where it's still coming up right here. So that hasn't stopped. So it's been quiet since 1924, and now it's back. I have a feeling we're going to be reporting a lot on this. Anyway, let's move on. Oroville Dam lake levels. At 7 o'clock Pacific time, it was 895.91. It's been holding at that level since 3 o'clock this afternoon. The outflow at 7 o'clock was 39.95. The inflow was 39.33. So it looks like the inflows are going down. The highest inflow on this area we're seeing here was at 3 o'clock. It was 52.50, and then it's gone down. So yesterday, I didn't even calculate yesterday. Let's calculate that from midnight to midnight. Okay, we ended 895.93 minus 895.79. So yesterday it went up 0.14 feet. So at midnight it was 895.93, and it's gone down. It started going down at the 8 o'clock reading. It went down, and you can click on this earlier link and you can see earlier readings. So at 7 o'clock it was 895.93. You can see that 7 o'clock this morning. And then you click on later, and then at 8 o'clock it was 895.91. and then it went down to 895.90. It held there for a few hours, and then at 3 o'clock it went back up to 895.91. So that's where it's at right now. Now let's move on over to earthquakes. The big news today is all of this activity down here. We've got 12 at Adipora, Indonesia, and these two big ones. The 7.3, it was a 7.5 that got downgraded to a 7.3, came in at Samlaki, Indonesia. It was in the ocean, 208 kilometers deep. It came in at 7:53 last night. That's Pacific time. That's my time zone. We see the little wave, but there were no tsunamis from it. And then at 8:28 last night, there was an aftershock of a 5.2 that was 218 kilometers deep. So with them being deeper like that, it doesn't cause as much shaking at the surface. So that was probably why there was no tsunami. But if you look, okay, I've got that one pulled up here on Volcano Discovery. Here's the information. It happened on June the 24th at 2:53 UTC time. In the Banda Sea, Indonesia, they're rating it as 7.1. Here it says 7.3. Anyway, it's, that different agencies reported them differently, but it was a huge earthquake. And it was equivalent to 84 atomic bombs. 84 atomic bombs. So you would think that it would have caused some damage, but it didn't. And people in Australia were feeling it. Here are all the I felt it reports. Let's read a couple of them. Here's one. Sitting in the chair, out was like something hit it. I turned around, nothing there, then slight shaking, but intensity started, and I could see the house swaying and rattling. It went for a considerable time and then started to ease off. That is the longest I have ever experienced. That was at Humpty Doo, NT, wherever that is. 715 kilometers from the epicenter. Humpty Doo. That's a town. Here's from Darwin. 697 kilometers from the epicenter. Strong shaking. The building shook noticeably. Could notice other buildings shaking. Harder to remain steady on feet. Stuff fell off our pantry shelves. Ceiling fans moving a fair bit. Lasted for longer than ever before in my experience. Here's someone in Craigieburn. Very weak shaking, laying in bed. Something, but distinctive rumble, and slight but detectable vibration. Why do people from 2,000 miles away put on here that they did not feel it? Here's someone from Darwin, and this is in northern Australia. Strong shaking. I was on the 11th floor of a 14th-story building in Darwin, Australia. It felt like the building was bouncing up and down. not just swaying or moving back and forth, the strongest I've ever felt, and I and my colleagues were somewhat frightened. I would be. So there's a lot of these reports here. Look, there's got to be a few hundred reports. Okay, here's a long one. Here's another one from Darwin. I was sitting on the couch talking on the phone to a geologist. She was very interested in my experience. I heard the noise coming first, then felt the rolling waves and heard my bookshelf doors rattling and watched my artwork sway. It went for a very long time, easing off a bit and then stronger. The bookshelf doors rattled twice for about 30 seconds each time. The last things to stop were the rolling vibration of the couch and the swaying of one of the artworks. The whole thing went for about 2.5 minutes and is the strongest I've felt in Darwin over the last 17 years. I felt today's earthquake in Nightcliff. Wow, 2.5 minutes. So, here's from Dili, Timor. They were closer to it. Long, wavy feeling. Here's one. It was so strong, everyone panicked and ran through the emergency and exit stairs. I was on the 8th floor. Here's one from Dili. I was in a cafe and there were around 10 people indoor and more people were sitting outdoor seats. People literally escaped to an emergency gathering point. Here's from Indonesia, 397 kilometers from the epicenter. I'm on a 3rd floor concrete building, big shake for like 30 seconds, squeaking sound heard all over, no damage so far. So there's that. So it's right down here. I mean, it's just amazing that these big ones keep happening and there's so little damage and so few injuries. And then we've got all these at Adipora. We've got 12 here. So I'm going to call these, and these are big. Most of them are in the 5s. Here's a 5.3. This was at 7:43 last night. Oh, and by the way, when it shows this 10 kilometers, that's the default that USGS goes to when they don't have the depth or they don't want to report it. So that's why you see the majority of all the earthquakes around the planet are 10.0 kilometers. That's the default. So that's not really the depth, probably. I hear people reporting earthquakes and they say, oh look, all of these are 10 kilometers. Oh look, all around the world they're all 10 kilometers deep. No. That's the default for the reporting. So the first one was this 5.1, then a 5.6, 5.3, 4.6, 5.0, 4.8, 4.7, 4.4, 5.7, 5.3, and this 5.0 came in at 3:39 this afternoon. So we got 11, and there were more here yesterday. So this area is shaking. So let's look real quick and see what's about to come off the map. Okay, all of these in Indonesia are the oldest ones. So I covered those. Let's go over here. Here's another 5.9 near Lesperance Rock, New Zealand, at 4:34 this morning. Oh, and if it says 10 kilometers deep, I'm not going to say anything. Here's a 4.8 near Ndoye Island, Fiji, at 9:14 this morning. This was very deep, 636 kilometers deep, very deep. And then there was a 4.4 south of the Fiji Islands at 12:15 this afternoon, 516 kilometers deep. So these deep ones are what will make the tectonic plates move and make more earthquakes happen around the planet. Here's 4.6 at Bitung at 5:59 this afternoon. 4.7 Molibagu at 1:17 this morning. Here's a 4.9 at Batong at 8:53 this morning. Another deep one, 551 kilometers deep. Then up here just off the coast of Japan, right on this red line, a 4.3 near Ito at 3:22 this morning. Then coming on around, some more at China. Here's a 4.8 near Gongay, China at 6:24 this morning. Here's another one in Iran, a 4.3 near Garaj, Iran at 8:14 this morning. And then we had two up here on Iceland, right on the red line. This red line, this tectonic plate line, goes right through the little island. We had a 4.5 at 6:09 this morning, and then another 4.5 at 6:55 this morning. So right next to each other. Those are considered Arctic earthquakes because they're included in that region up there. And then at the southern end of the Atlantic was a 5.5 near Bristol Island, South Sandwich Islands at 12:21 this afternoon. And coming on around, here's one on land at Chile, a 4.6 near Carahu at 9:42 last night. Coming on up, here's one off the coast of Mexico, a 4.5 near Puerto Madero at 3:12 this morning. So we have 237 earthquakes worldwide for all magnitudes, and of those, 35 of those are 2.5 magnitude or higher. So we've already shown all of the international earthquakes. Now let's look at Hawaii. We've got 6 here today. 1.7 Kilauea, 0.8 Kilauea, 1.9 Kilauea, 2.3 out here in the ocean. They're calling it Kahalu'u Keuau. That came in at 2:45 this afternoon. 1.8 Kilauea, and there's a 2.4 at Mauna Loa. So there's still activity there. And then in the Caribbean, we're showing 8 here today. I'll just call them off. 1.9, 2.1, 2.8, 2.6, 2.7, 3.1, 1.7, and 3.1. So those are not big enough to do damage, but it's showing movement there. Now coming on up into Alaska. We've got 63 here today. Of those, there were 2 larger ones. Here's a 3.4 at North Nenana and a 3.1 at Koktovik. So we can see they're peppered around through the state. Hold on. So, we're not going to go over great detail in these. We can just see them peppered around coming up through the Cook Inlet. Moving up, we've got a few clustering here. There's that 3.4 North Nenana, and we've got some others there. And here's Kobuk, has 7 here today. And then we've got some 2.4 at Unalakleet, and here's one in the ocean, and 1.5 near Nome, and so on. Here's some in the little armpit. Now, let's move on to the lower 48. We've got 133 here today. We're going to start, we've got 2 in the New Madrid hazard zone at Ridgely, Tennessee, a 1.9 and a 2.1. Then we've got 2 in Oklahoma, 2.9 at Cherokee, and a 1.5 at Perry. And then in Kansas was a 2.6 at Plainville. Now this is where we saw that what was it, a 4.5 or something here a couple of days ago, same place. Now in Arizona, we've got the reporting station is Mesquite, Nevada, but it's in Arizona. It's a 1.0 at 0 depth. Now let's see if anything's in Utah. No, Utah's clear. Now at Yellowstone, we've got a 0.1 and a 0.6 at West Yellowstone, Montana, a 2.1 Cascade, Idaho, and a 1.3 at Soda Springs, Idaho. And then coming up into the Pacific Northwest, going to look at Washington first of all. Well, first we've got this explosion, a 1.6 explosion near Cottage Grove, Oregon. It's south of Eugene. And then look at all of these in Washington today. For a tremor map, we've got 93 yesterday. And there were a few up here on Vancouver Island. And then there were a few down south of Salem. And then we've got these by Roseburg. A whole bunch of them by Roseburg. So let's just start up here. Here's a 1.6 at Kingston, 1.2 Waterville, 0.6 Waterville. How many are here? There's 3 at Desert Air, a 0.4, 0.7, and a 0.5. .9 at Woodland, and then we've got 7 around Mount St. Helens today. Here's Mount St. Helens, and we've got 4 in the crater. They're small, but 4 right in the crater, and here's one on the edge, and then 2 more. These are small. They're like 0.5 and under, but you got 7 there in the Mount St. Helens area, and a 0.9 at Woodland. I showed that. We showed that one. So Roseburg, can't remember where Roseburg is. Right there. So those clusters, that big cluster was right in here at Roseburg. So we might see something there tomorrow. Okay, coming into Northern California, we have another one on this fulcrum point, 1.9 at Shelter Cove at 2:30 this afternoon. Now remember, we had all these, there was a whole slew of earthquakes out here in the last couple of days. Let's just review so that we don't forget. What happened here? We had this big one, this 5.6, and then we had some smaller ones, and then we had all of these right here on the edge of this Juan de Fuca plate, and we had a 5.0, 5.4, 5.4, and then a whole bunch of 4s and 3s. So that was 11 right there. From the 20th through the 22nd. So we're showing a lot of movement, and to see all magnitudes for the last 7 days is just we should do this periodically, because it blows my mind, because everything is moving. So the yellow ones are the older ones, the orange ones are within the last 24 hours, and the red ones are the recent ones. So we'll go back to 1 day, all magnitude. Now let's come on over to Nevada. Up in northern Nevada was a 2.1 near Denio Junction at 11:34 last night. Now that is that would be across from some of these that we saw. Now, if we go straight across from our fulcrum point, we've got Pyramid Lake here. So we're seeing two right there. We've got one. They're both in the lake. Here's a 0.8 at 11:16 this morning and a 0.8 at 4:41 this morning. And then we've got two at Cold Springs, a 0.6 and a 0.4. And then we've got a 0.6 at Truckee, and we've got two near Incline Village, a 0.2 and a 0.8. And that's in the mountains north of the lake, north of Lake Tahoe. Now coming on down, we've got a 0.8 near Gardnerville. Hawthorne, not many at Hawthorne. Just got a couple at Hawthorne, a 0.3 and a 0.6. This is a 1.1 at Gabbs. Here's an explosion, a 2.0 explosion near Tonopah at surface level, 0 depth. Who knows what they're blowing up. Here's a 1.3 at Warm Springs, and we've got -1 at Alamo, -0.1 and a -0.2 at Beatty. So a couple of little microquakes. Now what's over here? We had a 2.3 and a 1.2 at Caliente. And here's a 2.1 at Warm Springs, 1.3. I think that's it for Nevada. Now let's come on down California. Here's a 1.5 Quails Camp, Nevada. Here's a 0.8 at Tom's Place. That's at Mammoth Lakes. Here's a 1.3 at Yosemite Lakes. Looks like that's on the other side of the mountains. Here's a 0 near Beatty. -0.1 Beatty. Oh, here's an explosion. 1.9 Sandy Valley. And here at Coso Junction we have 3, a 1.1, 1.1, and a 1.0. So that number has gone down. So in Southern California we have 51 here today. What have we got here? We've got a cluster at the southern end of the Salton Sea. We had 5 here, low to mid 1s range. And here's one that just came in, a 1.0 at Bombay Beach. And then we're seeing them just peppered around. And here's a cluster at Aguanga. There's 11 in the whole viewing area here. Let's see if any of these are very big. Nope, they're all under 2.5 magnitude. Here's some, see, they're all in little clusters, like 2 or 3 together. Here's Glen Avon. We've got 5 here today. So they haven't stopped. They're like 1.5 and under. And then we've got some up at Bradbury, 1.2 at Canada Flint Ridge, and so on and so forth. And then they're coming on up. So here's the San Andreas fault line. Let's follow that. Here's a 0.9 at Pear Blossom, 1.5 Lake Hughes, 1.7 Ojai, 1.0 Kolami. Here's a 1.4 near Lopez Point. Oh, look at this. It's in the ocean, and it's at a negative depth, a minus 0.2 kilometer depth in the ocean. Go figure that one. Here's a 1.0 Hollister, 1.5 Los Altos Hills, 1.3 Berkeley, and then at the geysers we have 21 here today, and the largest one is this 2.1 and then 2.0, and the rest are under ones. Ones are under. So that number's gone down. So I think that's a wrap for the earthquakes. Let's zoom out and see if anything needs to be addressed. No, we got all of those. That's a wrap for the earthquakes.